All right. Well, welcome back to the Hometown Business Podcast. I am here with Paige Geiger, who also happens to be my cousin. So we know each other well. But she has a photography business. So I asked her to be on and to share about that because she's killing it. She's too busy and jam-packed schedule. So she's got it going on. She's doing good things. So I'm going to let her tell us about how she got started.
So when I first started, let me think. When I was a kid, I remember always carrying around like a disposable camera. And, Erica, my other cousin, I used to make her model for me while I would take pictures of her. I still can find some of those at my mom's house, like of her in her little like windbreaker pants that I printed out. But then I guess back before I got married, so probably like 2010, I went to one of these pawn shops up here and bought a camera and literally knew nothing about it, tried to use it, couldn't figure it out. So I sold it, got rid of it. And then I guess after I had Blakely, I had her photos done professionally for the first time and I fell in love with them. Continued to keep getting them done. But then I guess something in my mind was like, I want to do that. Like, I want to be able to create that,
Mm-hmm.
So, like most moms do, I went out and bought a nice camera and I would play with it some, but couldn't really use it unless it was on auto.
Yeah.
So I decided to take like a continuing education class at Gwinnett Tech.
Mm-hmm.
And just to learn like the basics, like I wanted to know, like I could look up stuff online, but I didn't know what an aperture was or any of that. So I was like, how the heck do I teach myself this? So I went and just took a beginner's class and just learned like the meaning of everything. And then from there, kind of YouTube, Google, all of it, and really just trial and error. So that's really how I got started. It wasn't intended to really be a business. It was more so just to take pictures of my own child. And then, I started having people ask me to do photos for them. Why? I don't know, because I was terrible.
Because normal people like us don't know what an aperture is. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, but it was terrible in the beginning, okay? So from there, started having people ask me and then eventually, I guess it was probably Chris, because I had decided I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom or had her, and he was like, well, why don't you do it on the side and make a little extra money? And just how it all started.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us something, because you said like at the beginning they weren't good. So tell us something that you did at the beginning that like makes you cringe now.
A lot. Charging people at the beginning. I didn't charge at the earliest, but even when I did start charging, I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, why did you stay with me? I still have clients that use me now, and I'm like, I can't believe you paid me back then. But probably one, trying to do like newborn photography. Newborn photography is hard.
Right.
And like, I can honestly say newborn is not my strong point. I'll do like the in-home lifestyle, but the studio type, it's hard. And kudos to those like strictly newborn photographers. I just, thought, sure, I'll try it, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm in there, unsafely trying to pose these babies thinking that it's real with their hands like this. That is not real, guys. That's Photoshop. There's Photoshop. Okay. So I'm in there really trying to put babies in these positions. Selective coloring, like doing everything in black and white and then like one thing in color. That makes me cringe now. I can't believe I would do that. Or like I would thought that like you had to have like 750 props. So I would, every shoot that I went to would carry, like I'd have a wagon full of props that I'd be dragging around with me. And then you look and it may, to me, look back now and it just looks so cheap because I've got like 800 things behind them. And now my thing is kind of less is more. I might use a blanket occasionally, or if it's like a mini session that's styled, like the flower truck or whatever.
Obviously
there's props in that, but for the most part,
yeah, I agree. Plus, I mean, that's how I am at my house, so I would imagine in my pictures I wouldn't necessarily want a bunch. But you live and you learn, you grow and figure that stuff out. So when did you really become confident in like calling yourself a business?
I guess so. I would say sometimes I still am not confident. And then there's days where I am. So I guess really only about a year ago. I've been doing it. Let's see. Blakely was a year old is when I started, and she's about to be 8. So I guess about 7 years now. And for a long time, I wasn't even confident in calling myself a photographer.
Right.
Like I would just be like, I take photos sometimes, because do what everybody does, and you compare yourself to others who are better than you, and so
imposter syndrome.
Yes, exactly. So I really it varies, because sometimes I still am like, oh, do I say I have a business? I mean, I do have a business. Yeah, you do. I do. It's registered
because
but
you're always shooting.
I guess I know, but then I look at like, I have these photographers that obviously they're like famous, but I look up to them and I'm like, now that's a business. Yeah. Everybody knows who they are, or at least everybody in the photography world knows who they are. Nobody, if you're not from here, nobody knows who I am. And most people just went to school with me. That's how they know who I am.
But we couldn't afford those photographers.
No. But, I guess it's different. Some days if I like do a session and I love it and I'm like, oh, I killed that one. That is my favorite session ever. I could walk out and be like, yeah, I run a photography business. And then some days if I'm not as confident and I'm like, oh, that didn't go as well, then I'm like, oh, what am I doing? I should just quit. I'm the worst, whatever. Anxiety.
Yeah, we all have those weeks. Sometimes my weekends are awesome and I'm like, I love my business. I love what I do. And then there's other weekends where I always love my business, but like I doubt. I'm like, oh my God, I'm the worst. What am I doing?
You just doubt yourself. Yeah.
And it's hit or miss. It's depending on, did we have complaints this week? Anything like that. But it's
my very first complaint that I ever had, I literally was charging like $30 at the time. And I remember when she complained, I started crying and told Chris I was selling my camera and I was never doing it again. I was horrified that I really was an imposter. And, at the time I probably should not have been charging anyways, but, get what you pay for, $30, whatever. So, I don't know. That was,
it's hard. Rough. You have to really build that backbone. And I'm getting less sensitive because, I try to always take complaints seriously. And especially, a lot of times people just want to know that you're not taking advantage of them, that you're taking care of them. So I always go at it like that, but it doesn't hurt me as much. I'm like, it's okay.
You have to develop some sort of a
nobody is dying when I mess up.
Right.
So that's what I remind myself. I'm like, it's fixable. We can come re-clean your house or reshoot.
Yeah, exactly.
If we were your brain surgeons and we just killed your loved one, then this would be a big deal. Okay, so what's your favorite part of the process?
I think probably my favorite part, I would say I have different favorite parts. One of my favorites is developing relationships with a lot of my clients. I have several who I told you have been with me from the beginning, and I've literally shot, them from day one where it was just, a girl and her boyfriend, and then I shot their proposal, and then I shot their wedding, and then both of their newborns, and then now, the kids are 6 years old, whatever. Yeah. Watching them grow up and developing friendships and relationships with these people. The kids, I love when the kids know me, they know who I am, and they're not scared of me, or they're not scared to get in front of the camera, because kids who don't do it often are shy at first, but usually when they see me, they just know they're getting pictures done.
Yeah. You're their family photographer. I like their royalty or something.
Yeah, so I just love developing those friendships. I'm a super chatty person and pretty much become friends with anybody that I meet. But watching people go through different stages of life and getting to document those important times is really special. Or for one instance, I went to a funeral one time, and the photos that were used were all of my photos.
Aww.
And I mean, it was so like, it was bittersweet. Like it was sad, but at the same time, it was like, wow, like I could provide that for somebody, you know, those are the photos they chose. Those, and I gave them that. I gave them those memories, and that was used on the like obituary thing or whatever, everything. And so I like that I can, you know, provide priceless moments for people.
And like, I know with like photos at my house, like I want them to kind of be cohesive, like, because different photographers have different styles. So it's like, I want which I always come to you, but usually you tell me, hey, we're doing this, and I'm like, oh, we need some pictures done, because I'm the world's worst. So I'm very grateful that you're a photographer, because we'd have no documentation of our family growing up.
Well, you know, my brother and his wife, they never, and I'm always like, okay, can you please let me photograph your family? You know, you should. And then she never prints them, so I just print her canvas for Christmas.
Oh, yeah. But like, I love how our photographs all look similar, right? Know, similar colors, similar
style. So,
which this kind of gets to our next thing, but you always kind of help me style, because I'm probably the person you're like, oh my gosh, she's going to show up and they're going to be like dressed like ragamuffins. But because you're good at like styling and stuff. So my next question was, what do you think you're the best at? So I'll let you answer first.
I would say the best at would probably be, I would say my stronger point would be families, children. I really enjoy children because I like to, I don't know how to explain it. I like to get, like, to show their innocence. I don't know how to word it without, like, a lot of times people think that they want their kid to sit in front of the camera and look at me and give me, like, the biggest cheese face they can, when in reality, I really just want them to, I mean, yes, I'm going to get that Christmas card style photo. Like, that's usually the first one I get, is make them look at me and smile.
Right.
But then from there, I want real moments.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, the other day I was doing a session and I actually was doing photos of the little boy, the little brother. Well, the little girl was over off to in the side playing in the water. So I knew that if I caught her off guard, I would get a normal reaction from her. Right. So I just called her name, like, not as in like, hey, look at me. I was just like, well, her name's Paisley. I said, Paisley. And she turned around and looked at me. And when she looked at me, it was like that, like, what? You know? And I snapped it real quick. And it's like her real face, not her fake smiling for the camera face. And I just love to provide those little, like, details and little moments that, like, as a parent, you want to remember about your child, but you don't think about, you know, grabbing those. I want to see them, like, in their pure innocence. I don't know. So I really, really enjoy children in families. One of my favorite things probably is, like, a mom and child, like, mommy and me sessions. Maybe it's just because I'm a mom, but documenting that, you know, bond between them. So,
and, like, as a mom, there's hardly any pictures of me with my kids.
Right, exactly. And I, in the same way, like, I hate getting in photos. I prefer not to be in front of the camera. But since I've done this, and, you know, I've watched just whatever. Ever since I've done this, I've realized that it is important. And, you know, I remember growing up and looking, my mom always had photo albums and had all the photos printed. And I would look through those all the time. Yeah. So I want my children to have those to look back on, and I want to be in those photos. Right. I want them, you know, my insecurities are not, they don't think about that. Right. They're not going to look at that 20 years from now and be like, oh, wow, my mom had a double chin there.
Yeah, no,
you know, like,
I look at pictures of my mom when I was little and I'm like, she was so pretty.
Right, exactly. So, you know, I don't ever want my kids to grow up and then be like, man, I only have one picture of my mom. You know, this is the only photo I have. So I really try to make it a point. And I try to tell moms this, especially a lot of times when, you know, it's their first child or a new baby. They're like, no, I just had a baby. Because I did that with Blakely. I didn't get in any photos when she was born because I was so insecure about my weight. And when I had Levi, I was still insecure about my weight. But I realized that at that point that, like, I'm not getting these moments back. Right. Why am I going to document everybody else with her and not me? And I'm the one who carried her, you know? Yep. So.
Yeah. That's good. Well, I think one of the things you're really good at, maybe not bet, I mean, you're obviously good at that stuff too, but is like, or at least the ways you help me is you'll be like, okay, go to this website, pick out a dress. There's some cute ones there, because I like style is not my thing. And I'm like, I mean, they show up and whatever, but you've got the, you know, where people can get good, like, I guess, family outfits, and you make sure to kind of help along that process.
Yeah, I've tried in the beginning. I used to not want to like direct my clients because I'd be like, they're the ones paying me, they can dress however they want. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that is true, they can. However, now that I've gotten to where I am and I charge what I charge, I feel like at this point when people do photos with me, it's an investment. Mm-hmm. And that's something you're gonna spend or use the rest of your life. So if you're going to spend this much money on photos, you want to look like you spent that much money on photos. Right. You don't want to spend that much money on photos and then look like you spent $45 on them, mm-hmm. because you're not styled nicely. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but a lot of times people will book me because they see, that say they look at my page and they see my style, and they'll see some of like my best dressed clients and they're like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Mm-hmm. I want that. And they book it, but then they don't dress anything similar. And while clothes don't matter, a lot of times, like if they want this majestical, gorgeous, open field, mm-hmm. but then they show up in jeans and a t-shirt, it just doesn't look dreamy,
right?
And in reality, that gives me, like, I have a hard time like envisioning, or because if I have somebody show up in front of me and they're, wearing this gorgeous flowy dress, I instantly get a picture in my mind of what I want. Like, I'm going to put you over there. This is, mm-hmm. I have it laid out in my head already what it's going to look like after I edit it. But then if it doesn't match the scene, it takes me a minute to like, okay, how can I make this fit
right
within, and still like match my style.
Right.
And then of course I do know where to get all this stuff, probably just because I have a shopping problem. And so, but then just, after years of helping mm-hmm. people. So I'm trying, I used to not give an input, but now I'll either, if I do like mini sessions, sometimes I'll provide a style guide. Well, I made your husband make it for me because I
was wondering, I actually didn't know if you guys had done that yet, but I'm glad
we did. Yeah, he made it for me. I haven't done my main one that's like just for in general, uh-huh. but when I did the fall minis, we put one together, and then Ryan made it for me online. Awesome. But sometimes people just don't have. I mean, some people just aren't artistic or creative, right. and they don't have that vision. They can't put it together. They don't know what flows. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people think when you think of photos, like think of the beach photos, everybody's in a white t-shirt and jeans.
Right.
Well, I personally like the mismatch. I always say like, don't all show up matching, because then you're just going to look like a big blob sitting there. You put bright yellow on, and then you're going to put a dark color on, and then let's add texture on you. Uh-huh. It really brings the eye in and makes everybody just look, and it just doesn't look so like posed.
Right. So like Olin Mills. And
yes, exactly. So I, just years of that, and then I just like to spend money, and so.
Well, you can get this whole like little closet that you can go dress people with.
I've recently started doing that. Uh-huh. It all started with Blakely. I buy her dresses usually because I have a favorite site that I order all of hers from for mm-hmm. photos. And I've started keeping them because I have clients who come in and they have a little girl and they're like, well, what should I put her in? And I'm like, hey, I have all of these if you want to use them. So now when I see a sale going on, I almost always go and get one at least.
Right.
To keep.
That's awesome. Because, a lot of times I get pictures when like Easter or Christmas when I already have a dress or something. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I'm like, I would have to go out and spend like hundreds of dollars to get our whole family like dressed for it.
And you do. And that's what my husband is like when you book photos with other people, like, because I'll book family photos with other photographers. He's like, yeah, you're paying the money for the photos, but then you think everybody needs a new outfit. I'm like, well, yeah,
Well,
you
they
do.
do.
It is an investment, and if it's something that's going to hang on the wall the rest of my life, I want us to look nice.
Yeah.
So I try to keep in mind budget because it can get pricey, and some of these websites are crazy expensive. So I really try to find a lot on Amazon first, and you really can find shocking. Like people will be like, "You found that on Amazon?" But I try to direct my clients to like places like Amazon and stuff first, and I'll send them links, whatever, get an idea of their style. But occasionally I'll be like, I don't know what your budget is, but here's this dress.
Yeah,
just a little if you like it.
Yeah. And you can make that a whole branch of your business. Like they could sell it back to you, or you could, there's all kinds of fun stuff that could happen with that. But I love that you do like your thinking from start to finish. First of all, you know the locations and you know what shots you're going to get. So you know which outfits are going to go well. Whereas then when I'm scheduling photos, I'm like, I don't know. As long as my kids match each other, that's all I think.
And that's what some people they're like, I don't know. I don't care. I just want photos. And I actually love it when people leave, when they're like, I'm leaving it up to you. I'm like, okay, I have full.
Like when your hairstylist is like.
Yeah. Because it's like, sometimes I can tell somebody an idea that I have. And if you don't have, a creative vision or, you're not artistic in any way, whatever, and you can't picture it, then you're like, that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what? And I'll tell them, I'm like, just trust me. Please just trust me. I promise it's going to look better than it sounds. And then it always ends up being like the favorite shot because they can't envision it, but I can see it from start to finish.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, my husband and I went to Savannah for our 10-year anniversary. And we brought Paige and Chris because I wanted Paige to take some pictures there and stuff. And I wish I had let you dress me a little, because I look back, I'm like, that would have been perfect if I hadn't worn those goofy shoes or whatever, because they're just my sandals. But I remember you asking us to do poses, and you were like, I know it's weird.
I know.
But they're the best ones.
They always, and that's what I always tell everybody. I'm like, I know this is awkward. I feel just as awkward asking you as you feel doing it, but I promise you this will be their favorite. And it's always the one that ends up being the profile picture or whatever, because it just looks more natural. It doesn't look like we're just standing and smiling at a camera.
Yeah.
It looks like somebody
putting our heads together,
caught a moment off in the distance,
Yeah. Those are definitely my favorite. Okay, so let's see. How do you make your work, and you may have already answered this a little bit, but how do you try to make your work stand out to attract new clients?
So I would say, I guess everybody has their style and what they want. And it's really taken me a long time to develop my style, because for a long time I would say I don't know what my style is. I just do it. I just do pictures, and it could change. But I've recently realized the work of my own that I like best or enjoy best are the more innocent moments almost. Because there is some photographers who prefer, to make everybody giggle and laugh the whole time. And of course, everybody wants those photos. And I do those. But I really try to get raw moments, or something that I want when people look at my work, I want them to feel some sort of emotion. I know that probably sounds weird, but art is subjective, and everybody, you could look at something and feel a totally different emotion than I feel about it. But, I want people to look at my work and not necessarily feel sad, but I don't want them to be like, it to make them laugh. I just want them to kind of make them pause for a second and be like, wow. So I really like to catch those little in-between moments that are just I'm going to forget that, that my kid makes that face when he's playing this, or I'm going to forget that, little things like that they're going to look back at it and be like, or when, I'll tell a mom if I have her holding the child, and I'll tell her to lay his head here, and then I'm like, I don't want to hear you. You don't have to tell me, but I want you to whisper, what you love. Whisper to him what you love about him. Mm-hmm. Or, think about, how much you love them. And just to get real emotion on their face.
Right.
And to get the child's reaction, or, if I tell the husband to whisper in the wife's ear, favorite memory together, to get that real reaction and the real like deep thought.
Yeah.
And so I want that emotion to stand out in my photos. I want people to feel something when they see it.
That's awesome. Well, I feel like you've accomplished that because I mean, you're jam-packed, which is such a good thing. I mean, that's your clients telling you like, we like the work you do. So good job.
Thanks.
Well, okay, so where can people find you?
Right now, probably the best place is Facebook because I'm old and don't use Instagram very much. I have an Instagram, and occasionally I'll go on there and add like 12 photos at one time, and then 6 months later add 12 more photos. But I'm most active on Facebook, in the process of somewhat working on a website, actually making your husband help me with that too, because he's the tech guru and I am not.
Bossy about websites.
Yeah, but that's what I need. That's what I need because I just keep putting it off and keep putting it off because it's just overwhelming to me, I think. So I need somebody who can like make me sit down and he knows what he's doing, because I can sit and edit a photo on a computer, but that's about as tech savvy as I get. Like, I can't, somebody will hand me their phone and I don't even have like Lightroom on my phone. Whereas like a lot of my friends like edit their own photos in Lightroom on their phone, and they're like, you don't use that? And I'm like, no, I don't know how the heck to use Lightroom on my phone. I can't even get it to download.
Yeah.
Like, or they'll hand me a camera, at their phone at like a function. They're like, here, you're the photographer. And I'm like, half of my phone photos are out of focus.
Right.
And I'm doing so I'm not tech savvy. So anyways, back to the question. Facebook probably. It's just Paige Geiger Photography, or Instagram. It's Paige Geiger Photo.
Okay.
And then hopefully soon the website.
Yeah. Well, we'll get that in the show notes. And maybe since my husband edits these, he'll make you do your website next week.
I know.
But that's the only way I do it, is if like I'll put it off for months and then all of a sudden I'll do it and it takes me 2 days and I'm like, why did I put that off?
Yeah, I'm the same way. And every time he sees me, he's like, you ready to do that website? And I'm like, almost next month. Well, this all started last March at Levi's birthday. Before COVID. And then I blamed it on COVID. And I was like, well, COVID hit and things have been crazy. And now here we are a year later and I'm like, I'm almost ready.
Yeah. So well, you have my permission to say what I say, which is you do it.
I just need to pick out my photos to put on there. And I think that's the most overwhelming part. Like what photos do I want people to see when they go to my site,
Yeah,
so
that's a chore. Okay. Well, we're going to do a lightning round.
Okay.
Podcast. I think I know the answer to this, so it might not be related to business at all, if it is what I think it is. But what podcast are you listening to right now?
You already know the answer.
I know.
I'm a little bit of a hippie. So my favorite podcast is called Know Your Aura by Mystic Michaela.
Oh my God, I did not know this. I thought it was going to be some like crime.
Well, that was going to be my next one. Okay, I was going to tell you that. So the Know Your Aura one is totally like
woo-woo.
Yeah. Like if you are not into the like weird hippie stuff, then it's not for you. But if you are, check it out. It's great.
Okay.
So it's just really cool. It's helped me actually develop a lot all over everything. Nothing, not even the whole like talking to spirits. What it is for me is like she can see people's auras, and then she explains like what the characteristics of each aura color are. And reading that and hearing that, just reading all the characteristics has helped me make so much sense of like, once you find out what your aura is, so much sense of why you do what you do, or why my husband does what he does. And I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy and I love it and I'm obsessed with it. Second, yes, anything crime. I binge those while I edit. So I started one today. What was it called? It was called Counterclock. It was like a spinoff from Crime Junkie on a story they did on there. About
I don't listen to any of them, so I don't know what
anything murder mystery. I love it. I have a harder time with ones that involve children for the most part, just because anxiety. But for the most part, anything crime related. Yeah. My husband thinks I'm a creep.
We have one of the girls on our team who listens to it, and she doesn't have earbuds, or she never uses them. and I'll hear her in there listening to it, and I'll go in there, and she will jump out of her skin, and I'm like, if you would stop listening to that stuff.
Chris made me get headphones because he's working from home, and we'll be both sitting there, I'm editing, and he's on the computer, and he's like, can you put something on that's not so depressing? And he's like, no wonder you have anxiety. I'm like, this doesn't give me anxiety. It's not this stuff. Things that give me anxiety, stupid stuff like, my house or burning down our car wreck.
Oh my God.
It's not this.
It's not gruesome murders.
Yes, he's like, can we put it on something happy? He's like, can we listen to your hippie stuff instead of this?
I want to hear about your aura. That's funny. Okay, next one. What Facebook group are you most active in?
Probably.
Oh my God.
Probably the Missing Michaela Facebook group.
What?
With all the aura people.
I thought this was some missing person thing.
No,
Okay.
I do stalk those, but I don't ever comment those. I go read them and I end up down those long rabbit holes of,
Trying
ending
to
up
figure
on
out the crime.
somebody's family's ex-boyfriend's uncle's Facebook.
Yep.
That. But my most active that I talk in would be any type of photography group. I have a few that I'm a little more active in.
Uh-huh.
And the Mystic Michaela one. It's really just a lot. I promise it's not a ton of people talking about ghosts. It's not like that. I mean, there is some ghost talk in there, okay? Quit making fun of me. You know like this stuff.
I know.
I'm a Christian too, okay? I am. I believe in God. I love God. I'm saved. But I do believe in this stuff too. So
it all works together.
It
somehow.
does.
I'm
It
sure
does.
It does.
She
understand
even
it.
talks about
And
it.
I
She
gotta
talks
tell you.
about it that she believes in God and stuff. It doesn't mean you're not like. Anyways, not getting started on that. But it's really more just like a positive place. Everybody's just very friendly and positive, and love and light and great energy, and
awesome.
And I like it. It just makes me in a better mood.
Yeah, mindset. Okay, last one. What is your favorite local restaurant? I know you like DoorDash, don't you? Or Grubhub.
Anything I don't have to cook. I am not a housewife.
Me too.
Local restaurant. I don't know. I didn't think about this question.
This is the one everybody always struggles with. I'm like, well, all you good people out there who cook at home all the time.
Yeah,
I could
see,
name
I
a
don't.
dozen.
I don't cook. But I mean, I really like in Monroe. So I like Silver Queen, but to be honest, I really only like their purple margarita. I don't really care for the food very much. Yeah, I don't know. I just like the environments. I like going out to eat. My husband's kind of a homebody, so anywhere I can get him to go sit down at a restaurant, I enjoy it. Mexican's probably one of my go-tos.
Yeah. Which Mexican? The one by Publix or the one by
I used to go to the one by Publix until they sold it, I remember like growing up going there every day.
El Ranchero.
But my parents eat at the one by Kroger a lot.
CO Blue or something. Yeah.
So anytime I go to Mexican, it's usually with my parents, and that's where we go.
Right. I love going to eat Mexican. Maybe, we don't have dinner plans tonight. I take a lot of people's ideas and I'm like, okay. Because
we don't either.
I'm the worst. I'm like, why is it normal to hire a house cleaner, but it's not normal to hire a personal chef? Because house cleaner, that's something a lot of people hire, but nobody hires a personal chef, and that's what
I would totally. If I had the money, I totally would. The personal chef, because we need to eat better. But I told Chris from the get-go, you were looking for a housewife, you picked the wrong one. I can cook occasionally if I feel like it. I just don't like to.
Yeah. Every now and then I'll get on a whim where I want to cook, but I want it to be totally my decision.
Yep.
And Ryan hates it when I text him at 5 and I'm like, are you on your way home? He's like, are you going to ask me to do dinner?
Pick up? Right. When we lived out in Monroe, we didn't have DoorDash out there. And then we moved to Loganville, and we were like, okay, so we bought a smaller house, and our goal was to save money. And Chris was like, I think we're spending more money because DoorDash delivers here, and you order DoorDash 3 times a day.
Oh.
Not literally 3 times, but I order it so much. He's like, Paige, we spend more money on DoorDash now than we did living out there.
We didn't have it out there. Yeah. Well, this was fun. Thanks for coming on. I will make sure all your information is in the show notes, and I may even include some of the pictures that you've done of my kiddos. And I know I'm due for more because I don't think we have a family photo since my babies were born.
Yeah, no, the only one is like from 3 Easters ago.
Yeah.
Impromptu.
Where my kids are barefoot.
In my parents' front yard in front of their chain link fence. Yeah.
And I need to, speaking of people not printing those, I've been meaning to print them, but haven't. So this was fun. Thank you guys. We'll be back next week. Bye.
This episode is sponsored by Get It Together Cleaning Services. We give you back your free time by taking cleaning off your to-do list. You can find us online at www.gitcleaning.com or message us on Facebook. Our handle there is @GITcleaning. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this interview and want to see more, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We have more great interviews lined up in the coming weeks.